Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Thursday, February 9th, 2023, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Black Colorado ranchers are being harassed by their white neighbors for being black. After weeks of complaining about racist treatment, threats of physical harm, and the mysterious death of their livestock to local authorities, the black ranchers were arrested earlier this week. We'll break down the story and show you tweets, text messages, and videos of how blatant the racial abuse has been with the president of the Rocky Mountain chapter of the NAACP and the chairman of the private Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Colorado Holiday Commission. It's been 9 months since a Houston police officer killed Jalen Randall. We'll get an update on his case from Jalen's parents and their attorney, Ben Crump. It's Black History Month, and Melina Abdullah, the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, is here to tell us about this year's Black History Matters campaign and what we can expect. Mental health in sports is often an overlooked topic. We've got the Super Bowl coming up this Sunday, NBA All-Star Game next week, and I'll be talking with a mental health expert about the impact sports can have on black people and what needs to be done for young athletes, professional athletes, to stay strong when it comes to their mental health. It is time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the piss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe
Black ranchers in El Paso County, Colorado were arrested earlier this week after neighbors harassed them. Courtney and Nicole Mallory, owners of Freedom Acres Ranch, were jailed on stalking, tampering with water or utility, and theft charges. Courtney Mallory was detained with a level 5 felony charge. They were accused by their neighbor, Teresa Clark, but it's unclear what led to those charges being filed. The couple said their farm had been targeted by killing their animals, destroying their fence posts, burning their Black Lives Matter flags, spray painting racial slurs on their land, and even waving guns at them. The El Paso County Sheriff's Office has responded to 170 calls and 19 complaints involving the Mallorys over the past 2 years. Now, the Mallorys are scheduled to go to court on February 14th. Their lawyers told them not to come on our show to talk publicly about this because their legal case is still outstanding. Joining us now, though, is Portia Prescott. She is president of the Rocky Mountain NAACP and the spokesperson for the Mallorys. Also, Dr. Vern Howard is the chairman of the private Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Colorado Holiday Commission. Glad to have both of you here. First off, Portia, this story has gotten lots of attention on social media. And so the family, the Mallorys, say that they have been under constant racial harassment. How long have y'all been working with them? And how long has this been going on, this racial harassment of them, and the authorities hadn't done anything?
No. And I want to say thank you, Roland. It's an honor to be on your show today to talk about this unfortunate issue. And sorry I missed you in Colorado at the African Chamber Gala. But back to what has happened. No, we have been working with them. Technically, the Mallorys reached out to President Angela Stevens from the Colorado Springs branch of NAACP, and probably going all the way back to March of 2021 when things started being weird. So this has been a long 2 years of escalation that didn't need to escalate, but it got escalated more so around September, October of 2022 when the president of Colorado Springs escalated it to me as a state conference president so that I could now bring in more support, and especially from our national NAACP office. So we are here to make sure that the Mallorys are safe. They get good criminal defense, and their civil liberties are protected, and they're no longer harassed on their property. And we're bringing the awareness that this is really happening, and it's an El Paso County unfortunate situation. And I want to say I'm a Colorado native, and this is not Colorado. So anything we can do to help get this, completed, where the Mallorys are back on their farms, back safe with their animals, and get this situation rectified. NAACP, we are here from the Rocky Mountain NAACP for the long haul for this.
When we look at these allegations, Vern, when you listen to the Mallorys talk about what they have endured, animals being killed, fence posts taken down, Black Lives Matter flags being burned, that's a hell of a whole lot.
It is. And ironically, the way their neighbors refer to them as the Black Lives Matter niggers. And furthermore, we have screenshots of the community literally coming out talking about getting pitchforks, fire sticks, having a public lynching, and things like that here in 2023. And the El Paso County Sheriff's Department refuses to investigate any of the Mallorys' allegations and claims. And we were meeting with them, President Prescott and I were meeting with them on a Zoom link on Monday, and they would answer questions vaguely and refuse to. They said they take every matter seriously and every citizen seriously. However, as they are sworn to serve and protect, they have failed miserably in this case.
Talk about some of those posts. We have some of them here, of course. And so these are, this says Leah Thompson, Michelle Kingor. And so who are these individuals referred here? Exactly who in these posts that we have here? Portia.
You know what? I'm not exactly sure. I wasn't aware of these posts. I've just been working closely with the Mallorys, Courtney and Nicole, and I kind of tried to
Got it.
cipher through all of the online stuff.
So yes, these
'Cause it's a lot.
these came from Vern. Vern, these are Facebook posts here, and so
Yes.
the conversation, Vern, is happening. Who's having these conversations on Facebook?
These are the neighbors of the Mallorys. Much like Portia, she and I have been working close with the Mallorys, and um, when they asked me to be their spokesperson, I asked them to send me the information that I'm able to share with you and other media sources. So what has happened is also they doxed them on Facebook and put their email out there and their address and saying, make sure you go by and give these people the business, so forth, so on.
Like even one person here, Denise Lynn, you need to retain counsel and get off social media. We are going to start a lynch mob and take to the streets with pitchforks and fire. Somebody says, are there any restrictions on Maurice Fournier to Denise Lynn? Are there any restrictions on size of pitchforks or fire sticks in Colorado? Asking for a friend. Folks are, and again, all kind of different comments they're actually making here.
Absolutely. Now, these posts have been taken down since. However, fortunately, the Mallorys were able to do the screenshot here. And then, Roland, even this past Saturday, there were 10 volunteers that were helping the Mallorys repair their fence. The police responded, the El Paso Sheriff's Department responded 5 different times within a 2-hour period as the Mallorys were doing work on their own personal land. And this is the same El Paso Sheriff's Department that will not respond to the Mallorys' calls. And just so you know, El Paso was a very strong Ku Klux Klan and white supremacist community here in Colorado, and always have been.
Yeah, and also understanding in El Paso County, it's less than 6% Black. And the El Paso County has given us vague information about going out to their houses. And obviously now the Clarks or these neighbors have able to weaponize the sheriffs, the whole entire sheriffs, the town, the county against the Mallorys. And it's left them feeling really isolated and alone. And they've been threatened repeatedly. And the scary part is there's like one road into the property from one direction. And this is where people have been, menacing and harassing. And unfortunately, this area of the county has history, especially with us with NAACP and a voter intimidation lawsuit we're dealing with right now, specifically because there would be people, we're an open carry state, will come onto your property and they know how to intimidate without, claiming that they have done anything. And that has to stop in our state.
Now again, so they are headed to court February 14th.
Yes.
I also read that there are folks who are trying to organize a protest or rally on their behalf. Any information regarding that?
Yes, we were temporarily looking. The Mallorys wanted to plan a protest for the 17th, and yet we're going to hold off on releasing that until after court on the 14th. So this way we'll really know what needs to be done and how it needs to be done.
All
and
right.
we say that we're holding off, Roland, because the sheriff's department and the county have been vicious against this family. And so there's so many different charges. Every day there's something else that the county is doing. So we want to make sure that we deal with the 14th, and the 14th they are still safe. They're still legally represented and they're still out and free. And that's a concern of ours. So we want to make sure we know everything that's happening after the 14th, and we'll go from there. Rocky Mountain NAACP, we will be holding a day of action rally in Colorado Springs. So after their 17th date, if all goes well on the 14th, look for information from the Rocky Mountain, because we want to still escalate this, because we haven't ourselves even been able to get to the new sheriff that's in town. Apparently he doesn't have his chief of staff yet, and we had been reaching out to their office for months and the DA's office so that this situation wouldn't escalate like this. The only reason that we were able to get as far as we did is because we had to go to Senator Hickenlooper and to our Senator Bennett to force El Paso County to get on a Zoom with us. So we're struggling even having any relationship or any connection to the sheriff. So we're going to be making sure that we're down there so that the sheriff understands that the NAACP is here in Colorado, and we're going to be helping these families the entire way, and they can't ignore us.
All right, then. Portia and Vern, we appreciate it. Certainly keep us up to date on what happens in this story. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
All right,
Thank
folks. Going to a break. I'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
Most people think that these television shows that tell stories about who we are as black men, and then they paint these monolithic portraits of us. They think that they're being painted by white people. And I gotta tell you, there are a whole bunch of black folk that are the creators, the head writers, the directors of all of these shows, and that are still painting us as monoliths. The people don't really want to have this conversation.
No, they don't.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. An hour of living history with Dr. Richard Mariba Kelsey, thinker, builder, author, and one of the most important and impactful elders in the African American community. He reflects on his full and rich life and shares his incomparable wisdom about our past, present, and future.
African genius is saying that my uncle was a genius, my brother was a genius, my neighbor was a genius. I think we ought to drill that in ourselves and move ahead rather than believing that I got it.
That's next on the Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
What's up, y'all? I'm Will Packer.
I'm Chrisette Michelle.
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Hey, folks, remember, tomorrow's the deadline to vote for Roland Martin Unfiltered to win an NAACP Image Award. That's right. All you got to do is this here. Go to vote.naacpimageawards.net. Scroll down to the category Outstanding News, Information, Series, or Special. Select that category. Scroll to hashtag Roland Martin Unfiltered. Black Votes Matter, Election Night 2022. Click on Vote. Then scroll down back to categories, click on submit. And remember, you can only use one email to vote. So if you got more than one email, you can vote more than one time. The deadline to vote is 9 p.m. Eastern, February 10th. And so please cast your ballot for Roland Martin Unfiltered. This is our first ever NAACP Image Awards nomination. We've been trying for the last 4 years. Finally broke through. And so let's bring it home. Of course, we're going up against ABC, PBS, as well as 2 own specials on Oprah Winfrey Network. So, and we're the only the only independent black-owned media company nominated as well. And so let's make that thing happen. And so please vote.naacpimageawards.net. All right, folks. And so please support us in doing that. All right, we were talking about, of course, the story out of Colorado. And again, we talk about what's happening in this country. You see what's happening there, and then you see the various things happening back and forth. Now remember last week we were talking about this right here, this AP African American Studies course. Dr. Greg Carr was one of the experts who participated in this. Now we know from leaked emails that the College Board wasn't being truthful. They were going back and forth with the state of Florida regarding this particular course. Those items have now been leaked based upon correspondence. You have that going on. Then you have Texas governor. First of all, let's go ahead and pull that up right there. You actually see the documents. And so these are the actual documents here from the Florida Board of Education showing the back and forth that was going on with regards to this curriculum. So all this claim that, oh, they had finished putting this together and that they got no pressure from anybody, the College Board actually is lying. We now actually see this. This is why it's important to have factual information, Greg. And so DeSantis could play these games as well. We see this is the pressure his Board of Education was putting on the College Board. And what they initially said happened, not really the case.
Well, Roland, I think I read the same documents you did, and I'm not at all sure what that really means. That document that you just put up, that one that was shared in social media, says that there were email exchanges between between January 2022 and June 2022, and that the curriculum was sent to in-house folk, well, I say in-house folk, academics to see if at the state universities in Florida to see if they would accept the AP course for credit based on the curriculum in May and June 2022. I went to grad school with the current chair of the African American Studies Department at the University of Florida, my friend Dave Canton. I saw him last Thursday night at the AP unveil at the museum. And I'm sure that if they had been pressured that had been put on David, he would have said something about it. What that document does give the impression of is that the AP may have caved to something. However, that's not what that document says. I would be surprised, quite frankly, finally, if other states weren't in communication with the AP as well. We know what Ron DeSantis is doing. I think it's a smokescreen. And I don't know that anything was changed in the curriculum. I think for those finally who want to talk about this, and you had Steve Birnbaum about this, the fourth unit is where a lot of the changes seem to have been moved to the group project, or as it relates to critical race theory, as it relates to intersectionality, queer theory, all topics which are still topics that students can study and discuss in their group project. But I'm not sure what that document says other than emails were exchanged. I don't know.
The thing the reason I'm bringing the Colorado rancher thing in this, plus this next story, is what Texas Governor Greg Abbott has done. Now he wants to do away with diversity in Texas. Now, here's what's crazy here, Reese. 60% of Texas right now, minority. 60%. Here's the problem. 60% of those who vote in Texas are white. And so this is what you're dealing with. When I wrote my book, White Fear, this is what I'm talking about. When black and brown people have to understand, if we're not maximizing our voting power, you're going to have these hard right white conservatives imposing their will, because what they are afraid of, DeSantis, Abbott, all these people, what they are deathly afraid of, they are afraid of the America that we are now and are becoming. They want to hold on to old white America, where white was right, where they controlled every lever of power. And so even this AP course is about that. What's happening in Colorado, absolutely. Blacks being able to control their own destiny. This is what's happening, and mainstream media is acting like none of this stuff is going on, and they're part of the problem because they don't want to cover this. You got Moms for Liberty taking over school boards in South Carolina and firing black superintendents. You've got what's happening in Jackson. I'm going to play a video clip in the next segment where state lawmakers, they held a news conference, and the Mississippi legislature has not provided any infrastructure money to the city of Jackson, Mississippi since 2009. Yet 60% of the sales tax and income tax from Mississippi comes from Jackson. So the black folks in Jackson are essentially funding damn near the whole state, but these white folks want to be able to still control. People need to wake up and see what is going on in America right now.
Well, I've said it many times. Who gonna check them, boo? I mean, do you vote? No. Do you go to your city councils and your education board and a number of things? No. So, yeah, they can do whatever the hell they want to do as long as you're abdicating your voter power to these white nationalists who know how to use power, take advantage of power, and abuse power to advance their means. And so we can lament it, we can cry about it, we can protest about it, but the damage has already been done the last cycle. So then the question is, what can we do in the meantime? And how can we, at some point, finally start to get ready for the next cycle without us having to beg and plead and share every kind of horror story and every kind of traumatic experience that's happening across the country before people fucking get it, that these white nationalists are playing for keeps and they're winning in many, many places, and they're trying to take that agenda more national. They already have the House. The Senate map is not very favorable for Dems in 2024, certainly not to expand the majority, but to even hold on to the majority. So we are not in the best shape. We've stopped some of the bleeding by not at least turning over both chambers to Democrats, but there's still a lot of damage being done at the state level. And these governors are just reelected, newly empowered, and they're trying to get to the White House themselves.
You know, Erica, the point that Risa makes there, I think, is important, that, which we always say on this show, don't complain after the fact. Or I always say, vote or shut the hell up. I mean, the bottom line is they have a strategy. I did not on our air play that silly, stupid stuff from that ignorant fool, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, her Republican response, okay? But we streamed it. But here's the whole deal. Damn near everything she said was woke this, woke that, woke this, woke that. They want to attack everything that is about advancing Black people and other people of color.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll repeat this. I welcome to the new era of civil rights. And I have said that they are not coming for our necks. They're at our necks. And so when you look at social media, people have been complaining about not being able to retweet things, not being able to respond in DMs. Oh, you thought that was going to, I have said that all areas of communication, all levers of power, they're coming for that. So while, you know, things on the Shade Room might be saucy and salacious and get people's attention, they're everywhere else penetrating. They're the ops, but they're doing a really good job at what they're at their goal, which is to ensure that Black people stay in their place and make sure that when they walk on the sidewalk, that you move to the side. We got really good numbers around what was happening with the economy, jobs report, and guess what else is thriving? Racism is thriving. To see the video of pictures of slaughtered animals, that people would be so audacious to move on to somebody, go to somebody else's property and kill their animals. So let me just then say that in layman's terms, they killed the bag because they had to purchase those animals. They had to care for those animals. And then now all of the profit that they would have gotten from bacon or whatever it is that those animals were going to be produced are dead. So the bag is dead. I still do not understand people that have the rhetoric around holding your vote, around not voting, and seeing the damage that is being done day after day after day. What they did not accomplish January 6th, doing it every day.
Hold it tight 1 second now, and I'm going to show you how even the Black mayor of New York, how he's weaponizing woke, and it's stupid. I'm trying to explain to people what the game is going on. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
The 4th NAACP Image Awards is airing live on February 25th, honoring outstanding performances in film, television, theater, music, and literature. But this year, Roland Martin Unfiltered is nominated for Outstanding News or Information Series or Special. To vote, head to NAACPImageAwards.net, scroll down to Outstanding News/Information Series, select the category. You have to click on hashtag Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Votes Matter Election Night Coverage. To submit your vote, you will need an email. Only one vote allowed per email. Voting ends on February 10th at 9 p.m. Vote today.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
as an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol. We've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
This is Judge Mathis.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
So I just want to walk folks through something here, just so you understand, again, what is going on. And so this is the headline. Eric Adams blames woke Democrats for exodus of Latinos, Asians from party. And so he was on MSNBC, and this was the question. Now, first of all, it was a complete, utterly bullshit question from Joe Scarborough. When he asked Scarborough if there was a disconnect between working class voters who should be aligned with Democrats economically and party leaders. Now, let's just understand this here, and you've heard us say this on this show. Whenever you hear folks like Joe Scarborough say working class voters, he means white people. The data actually doesn't lie. Who won working class voters? Democrats. See, Reese, Greg, Erica, it's always interesting when you see these national media people put this sort of stuff out. This is a fact. Fact of the matter is, Democrats won working voters. They're talking about white working voters. And then Adams goes, and you look at the numbers, there's a hemorrhaging of our Latino community, our AAPI, Asian American and Pacific Islander communities that's leaving the traditional Democratic base. The mayor said the exodus began, quote, because we've allowed the loudest and those who consider themselves to be woke to set the Democratic agenda. This is what, and then some of us never went to sleep, and we hear and speak directly to people. I think this party is now understanding that we have to speak at those issues that are important: jobs, public safety, educating our children, good health care, just these common kitchen table issues that we move away from. That's a lie. I mean, Greg, it's a fundamental lie. When you literally look at the bills passed in the last 2 years, it was kitchen table issues. It was economic issues. But see, again, what a Mayor Adams needs to understand is he literally is playing into the hands of the poll-driven Republican Party by using their talking points. And he is reaffirming it. That's what he's actually doing. And so what I'm trying to explain to people all around the country, that's why I thought it was stupid for the Obama people to pick up Obamacare. You don't use their term as like it's somehow, oh, no, we can flip it. That's the people, oh, no, we can flip the N-word. No, you can't. It's the same, the ER or the A, okay? It's the same. But this is what people have to understand is there is a clear line of attack on anything dealing with black. And they're gonna attach Christopher Rufo's tweet months ago. They wanna put everything under that banner, everything.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, Roland, Reese, you've been making this point, and we all have, but you've been very keen about this. We've got to overflow the boundaries of imposing our will on this political system. We can't leave any tool not in the toolbox. In other words, any tool in the toolbox, rather. We got to use every weapon. The vote is only one weapon. But see, and we talked about this in the coverage on Tuesday night. We didn't bring up the fact that Joe Biden was talking to working class voters when he starts using those very kitchen table issues. But then, of course, Joe Scarborough, a soft white nationalist, says, and then all the white-facing media says Biden is representing the Democrats' attempt to win back the white working class voters by talking about these kitchen table issues. Yeah, that's how y'all spin it because you're white driven. We didn't bring that up, but Reese, to the point you always raise, among others, all of us are saying it, but you know, we've got to participate. Voting isn't the only option, but when you vote, you overflow the boundaries. Eric Adams is speaking in a Democratic Party that is targeting voters who already vote. They're not trying to grow the base. Abbott, DeSantis, and Hucker Sanders, they are trying to rally their voting white base. But all of them are driven by this logic that somehow, if we don't expand the voting base with the white nationalists through voter suppression and catering to white nationalism, and for the Democrats by trying to either chase these non-existent white voters or be tiptoe around issues and not grow the base, that's when you're going to get this kind of rhetoric. They're not trying to make people come out and invite people to come in and participate in the voting process. And finally, now you've got folks who are absolutely engaged, who are absolutely organizing, but they have cleaved out voting as an option. Some of them on the left are some of the people who are critiquing the AP course because they say you took out Black Lives Matter, which they didn't. But I understand their argument that it isn't centered like it was in the draft. All that's true. But if the choice then is to say that's why the two parties are the same and we're not going to vote, you are playing into the hands of the white nationalists. Look, all of what you say is true in terms of systemic criticism. But while that is true, also vote. Run some candidates. There are some progressive candidates like Summer Lee and them who have won, who are in the federal legislature now. You can vote and be a radical at the same time. I know some of y'all gonna say, no, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the rational, sane people, because the people who are most vulnerable, like in Mississippi and all the other places, they don't give a damn whether you've read Karl Marx or Cedric Robinson or you shouting about bell hooks or Angela Davis. At the end of the day, their water is jacked up. The white nationalists have taken the whole damn city of Jackson hostage from the Mississippi State House, and voting is one of the ways that you prevent this. Also lawsuits, by the way. In Colorado, police in Colorado, you're engaged in state action. When you're supporting these Klan-adjacent people like this and then trying to hide, they're going to court. That's why we have to use the courts as a tool, too, to fight, and that's why judges are important.
The thing here, Reese, that, look, we have to be playing multiple pieces on the chessboard. That's what's going on. Yes. Look, we got Ben Crump coming up next. They hate Ben Crump. They hate the legal strategy. They targeted Black Lives Matter movement. Now, there were self-inflicted wounds. And this is where we have to be very smart about how do we not have self-inflicted wounds. They saw the effectiveness. Let me be perfectly clear. Let me go to camera 3. Listen to what I'm saying, y'all. They saw the effectiveness of the social justice movement. I need everybody listening to me, and I'm gonna say this very slowly. For the first time in American history, a majority of Americans in the wake of the death of George Floyd approved of black folks protesting. You had never seen public polling, a majority supported it. They set out to seek and destroy. And so what you're seeing is, now they're saying, we want to go after every other piece here because they saw how white folks, young Latinos, young Asians, young Native Americans, and black folks were all of a sudden rising up, and they said, oh, that's the last damn thing we can see happen.
That's right.
And that's the strategy. And Reese, our folks had better wake the hell up, stop playing games, and realize they are not joking. They want all of this in their control. National, state, county, city, school board, DA, courts, water district, you name it.
Absolutely. And the thing about that we really need to understand is, who are our enemies? We get so caught up in emotions. We get so caught up in feelings, justifiably so, because there's a lot that is thrown at us constantly. But what I like for us to do is talk policies, talk specifics, talk what's pragmatic, talk what's possible right now. Who's in office? What is their agenda? I remember when Ice Cube was on the show talking about the Black agenda that he and his folks came up with, the Contract for Black America, rather. And I told him at the time, I said, many of these things that you're talking about are things that are already in progress. There are bills, specific bills. There are senators that are supporting it. Why don't you get behind them? Why don't you do a scorecard? So much of what we talk about is like all of this stuff is theoretical when there is actual policy being either implemented, proposed, or obstructed. And there are people who are obstructing it that we need to rise up against. There are people that are implementing or proposing it that we need to put our support behind. But the ones that are actually on our side are the people that get the most smoke, like, for instance, the Congressional Black Caucus, and then the people that engage in the rhetoric and the ones that tap into our emotions, like somebody like a Bernie Sanders. I have to bring him up because the other day he was put up, he was some kind of pedestal. He ain't passing no bills but naming post offices and Columbus and stuff from Representative John Conyers. But my whole point is you have the people doing the work. I'm not even going to say Vice President Kamala Harris. I'll say Congressman Lauren Underwood, who has passed 14 bills since being in Congress. That's the kind of person that we need to be looking at what she's doing, how she is getting things accomplished, and rallying behind her. We need to stop latching on to the big names and the catchy firebrands and actually get behind the people doing the real work. That's not just on the congressional level or the federal level. That's also at the state level and the local level. Leave no stone unturned, but let's start getting into actual policy. Let's start communicating about policy. If you care about the issues, then go find out what's happening with it, spread the word far and wide, and get engaged. It's not going to change by just talking about our feelings and just talking about how all this stuff is being done wrong. When work is being done, the Republicans are doing it to our detriment. They are turning protests into policy. Right. They're taking over scoreboards and they're doing the lawsuits. Like Dr. Carr said, we have to get a lot more litigious as well.
Erica, I got about 45 seconds before I go to the break again. There has to be a strategy, and you must execute your strategy. If you don't, you lose.
Oh, God, absolutely. And I think that strategy is laid out on this platform 5 days a week. It's just a matter of implementing it. And I think that to Reese's point about feelings, I just mentioned social media. So what the hell are you going to do when there's not somebody who is stunting on social media, showing you what they're wearing, screaming at somebody? What happens when that's gone? You have to connect to the people that are actually doing the work. So less celebrity, more substance.
Folks, why you must support this show. Coming up next, first of all, we're going to talk with Ben Crump and the family of a black man shot and killed in Houston. That's one of the reasons why you must support this show, because we give updates on what's happening, staying on top of this stuff. Look, other black media, I don't know what the hell they doing. They focusing on all kind of other entertainment stuff, Zeus Network. I don't give a damn about none of that stuff. I don't. I really don't. If you want to watch a Housewives show, knock yourself out. I ain't talking about it here. We have to keep our people informed on what's really happening in the real world. First of all, download the Black Star Network app. Here's why. Look, YouTube, Facebook actually puts restrictions on our video, the Tyree Nichols video. Anytime we discuss a police shooting, Facebook and YouTube put restrictions on us. We don't have restrictions on our own app. That's why you must download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. We're also now on Amazon News. When you go to Amazon Fire, go to Amazon News. You will see us with all of the cable networks as well. But your dollars also matter. You must join our Bring the Funk fan club. I've been fighting with advertisers all week, y'all, who don't want to fund us. Check in money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We come back, Ben Crump.
Next on Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach. Listen to this. Women of color are starting 90% of the businesses in this country. That's the good news. The bad news, as a rule, we're not making nearly as much as everyone else. But joining us on the next Get Wealthy episode is Betty Hines. She's a business strategist, and she's showing women how to elevate other women.
I don't like to say this openly, but we're getting better at it. Women struggle with collaborating with each other. And for that reason, one of the things that I demonstrate in the sessions that I have is that you can go further together if you collaborate.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. An hour of living history with Dr. Richard Mariba Kelsey, thinker, builder, author, and one of the most important and impactful elders in the African American community. He reflects on his full and rich life and shares his incomparable wisdom about our past, present, and future.
African genius is saying that my uncle was a genius, my brother was a genius, my neighbor was a genius. I think we ought to drill that in ourselves and move ahead rather than believing that I got it.
That's next on The Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Yo, it's your man Deion Cole from Blackish, and you're watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Stay woke.
All right, folks, 9 months ago, Jalen Randall was shot and killed in Houston, Texas. The officers were attempting to execute a search warrant on April 27th after a brief car chase where Jalen was a passenger. Officer Shane Prevet shot Jalen as he ran away. As of today, Prevet is still on paid administrative leave. The Randalls are still awaiting on some accountability for Jason's death. Joining us right now is Ben Crump, the family attorney, Jalen's father, Warren, his mother, Tiffany, Rachel, and stepfather. They all join us right now for the update. First of all, Ben, I want to start with you. 9 months. What's up with the DA? Is there a grand jury? What's happening?
Roland Martin, thank you so much for having us and staying on these stories, even when mainstream media seems to try to brush us aside. So I always want to say thank you. Right now, the matter is supposed to be going before a grand jury in the next 4 weeks. We will see if that happens because, as you know, any reason that comes up, and I'm not going to point fingers, but they will kick it to the next grand jury cycle, and that is so heartbreaking to families who want to see justice swiftly, like we saw with Tyree Nichols when it was 5 black police officers, but now this is a white officer killing a young black man, and the question is, how long before we get charges brought? And that is why we got to keep pressing them, Roland Martin.
Warren, has a DA kept y'all abreast of what's going on here? Stayed in contact?
No, they haven't. They haven't been in contact with us at all. The police, the DAs, no public officials, anything like that. We've basically just been in limbo.
Wow, that is, Tiffany and Tony, that's crazy because it's interesting because when you have other incidents that not involving cops, it's amazing how folks want to be communicating, yet when there's a police officer involved, folks strangely go silent.
Yes, and that's the thing that we have right now going on is everybody is in silent. No one is actually speaking to us about anything, and we are right now at a standstill. But when stuff happens with black cops, it's automatically. It didn't take but 2 weeks in Tyree, so it's an issue with me because it's taken 9 months for something that happened in 3 seconds.
And again, we showed the body camera footage because Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, and then I'm gonna go to Tony here. Ben, they said one thing happened until we saw the actual footage.
Exactly, and that's always the case, Roland. It's these false police narratives. Even on Tyree Sampson case, even on George Floyd case, the initial police report was replete with inconsistencies, at best, lies at worst, once we saw the video. Once we saw the video in Tyree, we got to the truth. Once we saw the video in George Floyd, we got to the truth. And once we saw the video in the Randall tragic killing of a young man in less than 2 seconds, the police shot even before he got out of the police car and killed him. And so that's why we keep saying Jalen Randall name has to be elevated just like these other names to make sure they don't sweep it under the rug, Roland.
And Tony, that's it right there. And we keep saying on this show, look, we're sick and tired of these cops getting off for lying about what happened, and then the body cam footage shows something totally different.
Tony, did you hear him?
Tony?
Go ahead. Well, yeah, the footage is showing completely opposite what these officers are saying. But, you know, it's a real big problem here. Everybody's laying dormant, even the public officials, the NAACP in the fourth largest city in America, they're laying dormant. The officials, no one's taking accountability, no one's standing up for anything. But as soon as there's other issues in other states or whatever, they're flying out, and they're, you know, really in Houston right now, the politicians are more media whores than anything. They're not supporting the constituents. They're not doing anything here in the city of Houston. And this is the fourth largest city in America, Roland. And you know that because you're from here also. And like I say, Benner, Kim Ogg, everybody, they sweeping everything under the rug. But when my esteemed attorney appears anytime, you know, everybody wants to come and get in a picture with him. But we need action here. We need change here in Houston, Texas, man, because this can't continue to happen. It's a continue to happen. People have been killed. We're in a war zone in our own neighborhoods right now, Roland, and nobody's being here for us. Nobody's speaking up for us. And like I say, they're trying to sweep everything under the rug. It's been 9 months to investigate 3 seconds. You got a 3-second rule in the NBA. They don't take that long, Roland. It's just crazy.
And again, Ben, unfortunately, you've had to deal with this all over the country, where some places justice is swift, it is real, significant. In other places, they slow walk.
Yeah, and Roland, you know, we can never forget the blueprint that has been shown to us in Memphis. When it was 5 black officers, we saw how swiftly they moved. Like the police chief said, it was important that the community see swift action. It was important that they move swiftly towards justice. Well, whether it's Houston or anywhere else, when it's a white officer or a black officer and we see excessive force or crime on video, we need to see them move swiftly. And that's why I was so thankful that Jalen's mother, Tiffany Rochelle, came and sung, beautifully sung, Roland Martin, at Tyree Nichols' funeral, because we have to do whatever we can to bring attention to these tragedies so they won't sweep it under the rug as if our children never even existed. And that's what we continue to fight, Roland. So thank you again for talking about this case when everybody else is not saying a word about it. I know we can count on you, and Mr. Randall is right. Every time I show up to Houston, they all say what they're going to do, but then when the cameras go away, we're still left waiting. We better get a grand jury in a month or so, or we're going to have to go to other means to get attention for Jalen Randall.
Absolutely. And so, again, Warren, Tiffany, and Tony, we appreciate that. Ben, while we have you here, I had to speak to the FCC here this week, could not be at your ceremony on yesterday in Florida. The law school was named after you. Of course, we talked about it on the show. But I did see, first of all, you had a surprise guest who showed up there to wish you well in the name of Will Smith. He's doing pre-production for Bad Boys 4. He and I were texting last night. And of course, and I know he also did this video for you as well. I want to play it for our audience. Here we go.
Ben is on stage now, so I gotta whisper. But congratulations, man. Benjamin L. Crump College of Law. Happy to be here, happy to support. Congrats.
So Ben, congratulations. Is the only practicing attorney with a law school named after him?
Some black attorney, the first one in the history of a non-HBCU. So it was a Black History moment, and Will Smith came and put his money where his mouth was at, Roland, so we can help make future civil rights lawyers, so people like Warren and Tiffany and people we know all over the country can have somebody to help them fight for justice. And I cannot wait, Roland Martin, for you to come down to the Ben Crump College of Law. We'll have Tiffany and Warren, and we're going to have you live broadcast from the Ben Crump College of Law, Roland Martin. that would be Black history in and of itself.
Well,
Black-owned network at a Black law school.
And again, I don't have to ask anybody to do it, so yeah, that can easily happen. Ben Crump, I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Again, Warren, Tiffany, Tony, thanks a bunch. Keep us abreast of what happens in the case of Jalen. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you.
Bring in my panel here, Reese. This is, we can't say it enough, but again, when I think about that Freedom's Journal quote, we wish to plead our own cause, too long have others spoken for us. There are just so many things that keep happening in this country that if we do not have our own media telling our story, it ain't gonna happen. Look, I've been given a White House hell, and it's a problem for me that President Biden, 2 years in, has not had a sit down with Black journalists or Black-owned media. I don't know if even one Black-owned media outlet has even had a one-on-one interview with President Biden. I think back to Greg when William Monroe Trotter got, jumped all up in President Woodrow Wilson, who threw him out of the White House. The fact of the matter is, we cannot depend, our future we cannot depend on MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS to deal with our stuff. Reese? Muted.
One of the things I talk about often is credibility. And in our community, we listen to those that have built up that credibility and trust with us. And that's why a lot of politicians find themselves struggling when they go into the community once a year, twice a year, once an election cycle, and people are checked out already. And so Black media is one of those forums where we have, because we put in the work over years, built that trust with the Black community. There are other people who have trust that shouldn't, like some of these gossip blogs and things like that. But I think too often when we look at who gets the access, when we look at who gets the accolades, it's not necessarily the people that have that credibility with the community. Roland, I've been out with you, or I've seen you out when we were both at events. And I've seen how out of this and my peripheral over here, my peripheral over there, there's a line of people trying to get with you. I don't think that that's the case for other people that I've seen that are on these bigger networks. I haven't seen even that kind of response from just regular Black people. I'm not talking about the politicos. I'm talking about everyday Black people. And so I think that it's not just the White House. It's not just any particular politician, but the Democratic Party at some point needs to figure out who has the credibility and who has the ear and the finger on the pulse to the Black community. And make sure that you can't just look at follower count. You can't just look at ratings per se. You can't just look at what's quote unquote mainstream. You have to go to where the people are getting their information from and engage those folks, give them the access. And you will find that the people that you're trying to reach, really, you don't have to spend billions of dollars on TV ads that go nowhere. You can get right directly to the people. But that's a value that they have to have.
Indeed. And in fact, real quick here, Greg, I'm going to go into my office. So y'all know I have that Black-owned Media Matters. And I told y'all, these are all these t-shirts people send me all the time. But I want to show y'all something here, Greg. We have it on this wall right here. Where is it? Y'all see the video, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sideways.
Right here. Hold up.
Yeah. That
okay.
Way. Thanks, Reese.
The Memphis Free Speech and Headlight. Okay. So why did I show that, Greg? Because Ida B. Wells Barnett was writing about lynching. She's writing about lynching. And other people were trying to ignore lynching. So if you don't have Black media keeping the story alive, guess what? Folk don't know about what's going on. That's why we cannot depend on them for our news.
No, we can't. We shouldn't. And even if we could, we shouldn't. As you say, Ida Wells, when she wrote and urged her folk to first get their rifles and then to leave Memphis, ultimately, because the law could not protect them, they had lynched one of her friends who was a community pillar. This brother had a grocery store, the People's Grocery, and it was the economic success of that brother that triggered that white anger, that white rage that you read about, whether it be Tulsa, whether it be Memphis. And it brings up a couple of points that are interrelated.
Actually, do this here, Greg. I'm going to do this here. I'm over time. I'm going to go to break, but I want to finish that point when we come back because, again, I need people watching to understand when y'all hear me make the appeal to download the app and to give, I ain't doing it just because. I'm telling you, You are not going to get this stuff other places, and then you wonder why we're confused. People say, well, I didn't know, because you watching the wrong stuff. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
The 54th NAACP Image Awards is airing live on February 25th, honoring outstanding performances in film, television, theater, music, and literature. But this year, Roland Martin Unfiltered is nominated for Outstanding News or Information Series or Special. To vote, head to NAACPImageAwards.net, scroll down to Outstanding News/Information Series, select the category. You have to click on hashtag Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Votes Matter Election Night coverage. To submit your vote, you will need an email. Only one vote allowed per email. Voting ends on February 10th at 9 p.m. Vote today.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, I'm Amber Stevens-West.
Yo, what up, y'all? This is Jay Ellis, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, y'all see that there's a reason there's a portrait of Ida B. Wells Barnett in this studio. And you see her famous quote, "The way to right wrongs to turn the light of truth upon them." Greg, that's what, of course, our desire, what we want to do every single day when we're talking about these issues. It's you know, Reese's always going off on people saying, all y'all blue checks, y'all always posting clips of something on CNN. Somebody said, and hell, we discussed on this show 2-3 weeks earlier, and then folk finally get around to it. And so part of the thing that happens is that many of our people are literally walking around completely uninformed about what's going on. And then it's like, oh, why didn't we know? Well, because you're watching the wrong stuff.
That's exactly right. And of course, you can buy a blue check now, which and they're beginning to censor people reaching their follower limit. As Reese was saying, they're interfering, as you said, Erica. You know, we had to be very clear, and I'm glad you brought this up, Reese. When you go among our people, that's when you find out who our people trust. You're absolutely right, Reese. I've been in those places too, and I'm sure, and all of us have been in places. There's a brother who works at a grocery store in the neighborhood named Rob. Every time I see Rob, he's saying, you know, I was watching Roland last night. You tell Roland I've been, and then he always ends when we talk. He says, and I'm not anybody. I said, brother, Roland knows, and we all know you are everybody. You are somebody. We're all together in this. That is the spirit. I don't care whether I'm in Atlanta or New York, if I'm in Oakland, anywhere I've been. Everybody is like, yo, tell Roland, I'm supported. Well, we need that to translate into support. And many of those people do support. But let's be very clear. Ben Crump, we've come to know Ben Crump in the wake of Trayvon Martin, not because he was an expert in civil rights cases and fighting, but because Ben Crump combines a law license with a commitment, with an understanding that you shine, as Ida Bell Wells would say out of Holly Springs, Mississippi, the light of truth. You heard him say it. He keeps coming back to it. If we don't get what we want and need in the courtroom, we need to flood the streets. We need to turn the light on. That's why he always thanks you, Roland. And so, you know, it was great to go to the studio and to see everybody in person and then walking through the studio and be so impressed by all this. And while I'm tweeting out stuff like everybody else, I'm getting messages from students. Tell Roland I need a job. I'm in television production. And I'm saying Roland will hire all of y'all if he had the resources, which brings me to the point. The reason you go on these breaks, of course, is because now we're on Amazon. You can't go over. You got to make sure it's lined up perfectly, correctly, so that it is beamed out to the world. Well, guess what? In those breaks, we see commercials for the Black Star Network. We see commercials for the Black Star Network, and we need to see more commercials for advertisers, and they're not going to move until we move. But when we move, they move. That's what shining the light does. And so MSNBC, I don't care if you're black on MSNBC or CNN, they're not going to move until we move. And when we move, they move. But even when they move, we have to remember the only reason they moved is because we have something we control, we own, that is crystal clear, that is sharing and shedding the light. And as a result, that's when things change. They don't change when you stay at home. You're not saying support the Black Star Network because it's an ego-driven boost or it makes you feel. No, you're saying support the Black Star Network because when all else fails, the only thing we can rely on is each other.
The thing here is a couple of things I want to say here, Erica. First off, and it always amazes me when I hear these people say stuff. Here's what they don't understand. Fox News generates about $1.5 billion in profit. I ain't say revenue, profit. CNN, about $1 billion in profit. MSNBC, $600 to $800 million in profit. Folk, the best year we've ever done was $3 million in revenue, 800,000 in profit. 800,000 versus $1 billion in profit. That's what folk have to understand when what we're up against when we're talking about these massive forces. You got these conservatives who are funding to millions of dollars, this conservative media as well. That's what we're up against here. So folk have to understand that. But let me also make this point here, because I look at some of y'all's comments, people on social media, in the chat boards, and y'all always got something to say about Ben Crump. Ben Crump, and I heard Stephen Jackson's comments as well, ripping Ben Crump and Reverend Sharpton at the Tyree Nichols funeral. About, yeah, I saw it during the whole George Floyd deal. Did Stephen Jackson forget that the George Floyd family got the largest ever settlement in American history for police abuse? How do you think that happened? To the people who say Ben Crump don't win cases, y'all, he's not a prosecutor. What y'all don't understand is, why did the sister in Mississippi switch lawyers? Because what happens is, if a case is not getting attention, media-wise, then the prosecutors are like, we can ignore it. That impacts also settlements. So folk need to understand what happens here. The most they can do is go after a civil lawsuit. Well, the reality is you're likely going to settle lawsuits. People need to understand the role that these lawyers play. Don't forget, there was a settlement in the Breonna Taylor case, but they also, as a part of the settlement, negotiated changes to police policy that the city council passed. And so our people, Erica, need to understand, we explain that kind of stuff here. They're not going to take the time to explain it on MSNBC or CNN. And so our folks just need to understand why, as Captain Hughes said, information is power.
So let me speak to two things, and that's around two things that you mentioned, change and policy. So in reading, and it was really good to see Jalen Randall's mother and both his father and stepfather, to see them there as a united front. But in looking at her, my heart went to her because I thought about what she said, which was not in this interview, but through media. She talked about one of the things that has not happened is no one has asked her, Tiffany, do you require psychological help? And for the past 9 days, about 1,000 people who are subscribed to the Reframe Brain, we've been walking through and will continue to walk through this month being about wellness. It's a companion to Black History Month. Because in that $1 billion in profit that these other news media networks are doing, a lot of that is $1 billion of harm. seeing that trauma play over and over again, and the families don't have a voice or any say-so in that. So when we're talking about change and we're talking about policy, what Ms. Tiffany Rochelle spoke to around ensuring that, listen, when this happens, there needs to be some type of support, psychological support for those who are left to grieve. Because when J. Philip Clay was on a couple weeks ago, the question I said that I was going to ask him, since he led with Tyree Nichols' name out of his collection of paragraphs, Miles, is that, do you know how grief impacts the body? Do you know? Does anyone realize that people who experience that level of loss are 2 times predisposed to heart attack? Do they understand that they do then have to experience disruptive sleep patterns, which does impact our heart and our immune system? That those very people that are grieving, and they're grieving publicly, that in their public and in their own private griefs, that they are more susceptible to having blood clots. And let us not also fail to mention that their brain is rewired. And if there's not an interruption in that there's a permanent stress response whenever they see blue lights. We already know that that's something that negatively impacts especially brown and black bodies. When they're reminded, be it a gunshot, it could be lights, it could be anything that could trigger that stress response. These are the other things that are not spoken about, but because Black people have this cape of strength about them, which is actually a mirage in the facade, it is a survival mechanism. And I am here to tell you, we cannot do this for another generation. Change, absolutely. Changes to policy, absolutely. And this is why I rebuke when people come on this and other platforms and they talk about withholding and abstaining from the vote, because the consequences are so much more dire for us. There are things that Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, and many, many others endured, so we would not have to endure that now. We don't have to have the spirit of a Harriet Tubman now if we do what we need to do at the ballot box and in our communities.
Absolutely. And so, folks, we want you to understand this is the work that we do every single day because, again, we can't wait for somebody else to tell our story. Coming up next, we'll talk with Melina Abdullah of the Black Lives Matter, one of the activists there, talking about their Black History Initiative a little bit later. We'll be talking about the importance of mental health in sports. Super Bowl takes place on Sunday. NBA All-Star Game is next week. NBA trading deadline was 3 p.m. today. A lot of different things happening, and we always talk about how much money the athletes make, but it's amazing how we don't talk about the mental health issues that they also face. And so we'll be talking to one of the experts about that as well. So lots more to talk about in the show. Don't forget to support us in what we do. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Support us by sending your check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Download it from Audible. And don't forget to support us for the Image Awards. Go to vote.naacpimageawards.net. Cast your ballot in the Outstanding News category. Scroll down to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Black Votes Matter. Election Night 2022. You have until 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night to cast your ballot. We'll be right back.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, a relationship that we have to have. We're often afraid of it and don't like to talk about it. That's right, we're talking about our relationship with money. And here's the thing, our relationship with money oftentimes determines whether we have it or not.
The truth is you cannot change what you will not acknowledge.
Balancing your relationship with your pocketbook. That's next on A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Teresa Griffin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, of course, Black History Month. Now, of course, other people really focus a lot on Black History Month. I get it. We don't ignore it. But we do Black 365/7, so it's not like it's just a major thing for us because we do it all 12 months. And so that's important for us to understand. The Black Lives Matter grassroots movement, they've launched its hashtag Black History Matters, a campaign with leading Black scholars. Joining us right now is Melina Abdullah, director of Black Lives Matter Grassroots, co-founder of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. So Melina, explain exactly what this initiative is.
Yes, so we're actually 3 years into our Black History Matters campaign. Every February, Black Lives Matter Grassroots, which is Black Lives Matter, engages with scholars from all around the country to do mini political educations, to talk at length or as long as Instagram will allow us to talk about our heroes and sheroes, about the events and movements that have forged the way as we struggle for Black freedom. And so each day there's an installment. Today's installment, we talked about Ida B. Wells, who I know is one of your sheroes. Our beloved Dr. Julianne Malveaux wrote the caption for Ida B. Wells, which goes more deeply than like a Wikipedia post. It's really about her impact on Black freedom. It's really about her impact on us, and it's meant to inspire us to do the work of making Black history. And this year, Dr. Anthony Ratcliffe of Cal State LA's Department of Pan-African Studies is leading that charge, and he's curating and working with these 28 Black scholars from around the country to make sure that we uplift names that we know, like Ida B. Wells and Frederick Douglass, but maybe names that are lesser known as well, but have still forged the path for us.
And look, what we're talking about here is that we're now living in an America where our history is under vicious assault because what these folks don't like, they don't like the fact that we now get to tell our own story.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, of course, what you do, like you said, every day is about us telling our own stories, right? One of my first encounters with you, I don't know if you remember this, but this was back in 2014, 2015, and we were in space together. And one of the things that I talked about, and one of the ways in which, you know, I'm most appreciative for you is there's an African proverb that until the lion tells the story, the hunter will always be the hero. And you have been a lion for us. Our Black scholars are lions for us. The whole discipline of Pan-African, Black, Africana, African-American studies is about us being the lions who not only tell our own history, but also understand that knowledge comes from many spaces. It comes from reading books like those piles and piles that sit behind people like Dr. Greg Carr, but it also comes from the wisdom of our grandmothers and mothers in our neighborhoods. And it's meant in every space, intellectual work is meant to contribute to the freedom of our people. So our Black History Matters campaign is about inspiring the work, about remembering that these intellectual traditions are core to who we are as Black people and inspire us as we move forward. We're not just struggling ahead aimlessly. We have a pathway that is thought out, that's well determined, that's well considered, and that's what Black History Matters is about. So we hope that everybody will follow the hashtag Black History Matters on Instagram to get these mini boosts of political education, Black political education that are brought to us by some of our greatest minds.
All right, Melina Abdullah, we appreciate it. Where can people go to get more information?
Just follow BLM Grassroots on all social media. Those posts are, again, on BLM Grassroots Instagram, and people can go to blmgrassroots.org for more about Black Lives Matter Grassroots, which is the on-the-ground work of Black Lives Matter.
All right, then. We surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Greg, I want to start with you. I talk about what is under attack. It literally is. And it's interesting. I've had conversations with people, and they will say things like, "I mean, you know, we need to have more of this taught in our schools." And I keep saying, if you keep waiting for a school system to teach our kids, I'm like, you out your mind. I mean, I'll never forget when I was in African-American history class, studies class at Texas A&M, and we were, Dr. Broussard was the professor, and Dr. Alvin Broussard, and he was sitting there teaching class, and there were some Black students in there, and many of the Black students were real cocky to the white kids about Black history. And so we started going over some stuff, and I would look at them, I'm like, your ass didn't know that either, huh? And I would sit here, of course, they would be mad at me. I'm like, look, you can get mad at me, but I said, we one of them Black families that had them 4 volumes of Ebony magazine, the pictorial history of blacks in America. I'm like, so I was flipping through them bad boys when I was 6 or 7 years old. I said, so this ain't, none of this stuff is new to me. And it's a whole bunch of Black people who are walking around today utterly clueless about our own history.
Absolutely. And there's a greater percentage of them who are utterly clueless who are in the academy at the university than there are in the community. Roland, you've put your hand right again on the living heart of this. When you talked to Steve last week about the AP course, and this is a brother at the top level of the College Board, and you reminded him about those Ebony volumes. It is a reminder that our community has always taught our history. Before apartheid was over, before Jim and Jane Crow was over, it was more coordinated, it was stronger. Carter Woodson had his textbook, The Negro in Our History, in those segregated schools.
Well, you keep making a point. Hey, y'all, before, no disrespect, before Nicole Hannah-Jones' 1619 Project, Lerone Bennett was doing that kind of writing in Ebony magazine every month.
That's exactly right. In fact, the earliest textbooks we have, J.W.C. Pennington, History of the Negro Race, was 1841. Robert Benjamin Lewis, Light and Truth, 1837. And that is no disrespect. Every generation has to tell its history. But Roland, you're making the most important point. And it is a constant theme tonight, and as you say, 5 nights a week, Reese. When we control our narrative, it shapes how we are respected and how we can move together as a force. The sister in Atlanta, who then moved to Memphis, who brought the Scorpions unit and that concept of policing, over-policing our community with us, the sister who's now police chief in Memphis. That unit was disbanded because there's uproar now. The community is involved. Now, why do I connect that to what we're talking about here? I'm saying that the way we studied history has now forced the College Board to introduce this course. Were there people like Steve at the College Board who wanted to do this course for years? Absolutely. But when y'all got out in the street in the summer of 2020 and Roland covering that and everybody pushing that, it scared the hell out of every white institution in this country, including the College Board. That gave Steve and them the momentum to say, hey, what about now? Hell yeah, let's do it, let's do it. And here we are. And I'm telling you, there's some black people who wanted to go slow, who are now jumping out in front of this, involved with the College Board, saying, hey, this is the time. Yeah, you wasn't talking like that. This is the outside-inside strategy. And finally, I'll end with this. You know, we've always studied, and this is what I saw firsthand Thursday night talking with these teachers who are teaching the course. Imagine this. You got an AP course on African American studies for the first time in history. Students are taking that course. They took it in the fall. They're taking it in the spring. They're going to go back in the fall. As they are telling their friends, particularly their black high school friends, who ain't never been in AP. I never took an AP class. I myself am a graduate of ISS. Some of y'all know what that is. I'll tell the rest of you. In-school suspension. So the point is this. As these black students are finding out about this class, guess what they're telling these black teachers that are teaching it? I want to take that next semester. Guess what College Board's about to have on its hands? You got a problem. Why? You have black students who now want to take this class, and other students, you ain't going to have enough teachers. That is not coming from people who have shaped this from the top down. That's coming, as we use the rhetoric, from the bottom up. The same people who watch Black Star Network, same people who watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, same people who don't wait on anybody to save them. They're going to overflow the boundaries of this argument about the College Board, and while they're doing it, the community will continue to do what we have always done: teach our own, save our own, protect our own, and that's the best way to change everything. You start from the inside.
See, Reese, if you a baby boomer or a Gen X, I know you a real one. Go to my iPad. I know you a real one if you know what this is. If you know what this is, I know you a real one. If y'all had listen, some black people couldn't afford all 4 volumes, but if you had 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of these, I know you a real black person.
Well, that's a little before my time, but I did have.
Carol, my producer, her mama still got hers.
I love it. You know, there's something to be said about a framework, though, to Dr. Carr's point about, you know, what it means for the institution of learning to have the AP course. You know, what a lot of people are succeeding at now is putting information in bite-sized chunks that are catchy enough to, whether it's true or not, people are going to take it and run with it. And I do think that context and the way that things are introduced matters. Not to bring up, you know, the other night, but for instance, when our conservative friend brought up Fannie Lou Hamer and her position, taking her position out of context can be harmful and it can be weaponized. And so I think that it is important to have things like the AP course that has been vetted. Now it's been watered down to a certain extent, but it has had scholars, esteemed scholars like our beloved Dr. Carr, involved with that framework, because that is how you get people out of the tweet, out of the headline, out of the meme lens of getting information and really digging a lot deeper. So I think that that's something we need to value. I agree we need to do our own stuff as well, but that framework cannot be overstated how important it is.
I got about 20 seconds, Erica. Go.
No, I mean, information plus engagement equals power. That was the formula for the Savage Politics when I had that particular platform. So I think that the more people are informed, I think that people will feel more engaged and more powerful about the truth that they actually do speak and not being swayed by soft messages.
All right, folks, I gotta go to a break. Up next, Keisha Dennis, give me a shot. Will join us. We'll be talking about mental health and athletes. That is her expertise. She's waiting to talk about that. Super Bowl, of course, Sunday. NBA All-Star Game is next week. And again, we focus a lot, looking at the camera right there, looking right there. We focus a lot, there you go. We focus a lot about, again, how much money they make, but we forget these are still real people. So we'll discuss sports and mental health next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
hatred on the streets. A horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shots.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm BB Winans.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, 3 hours ago, really 4 hours ago, the NBA trading deadline actually expired. Kevin Durant, blockbuster trade. He gets transferred from Brooklyn Nets to the Phoenix Suns. John Wall left the Rockets, trashed 3 weeks ago. Now he just got traded back to the Rockets from the Clippers for Eric Gordon. This happens all the time. And look, when you're fans, you like, okay, whatever. My team has improved or they got worse. But we never actually think about the impact of those type of decisions on players, on their families, on their children. They're in school, the mental health. Super Bowl is taking place on Sunday, and so many people are going to be watching, and they're placing bets, and they're caring about what Rihanna's doing at the halftime show, but also not understanding the reality of what athletes go through. I remember a number of years ago, running back Stanley Wilson of the Cincinnati Bengals went on a drug binge a couple days before the Super Bowl. I also remember when the Raiders played in the Super Bowl, I forgot who they played. I think it was the center for the Raiders who had a mental breakdown, and he literally went missing. Folks, before the Super Bowl. Now you would say, what the world are you thinking? This is the biggest game of your life. But the reality is that mental health impacts athletes just like it does everybody else. And so my next guest is the founder and CEO of the Elephant in the Room. That's her foundation. Keisha Dennis focuses on these issues, and she specifically works in the area of sports. So glad to have you here. So first of all, what led you to work in this space?
Well, to be honest with you, it came from personal experiences. Years ago, when I was a teenager, I struggled with some mental health concerns, anxiety in particular. And just like everyone in today's society, just didn't want to really talk about it. And so I knew that I wanted to change something about it. I knew that I didn't want to suffer in silence anymore, and I didn't want anyone else to suffer as well. And so I kind of coached myself out of it. And as years have gone by, I just realized that a lot of people these days, it's not as easy. And so I wanted to do something that would kind of help impact change. And then once I began to meet a lot of different players, athletes, professional athletes, I didn't really talk to them a lot about sports. I talked to them about their families. I talked to them about how they felt, what they were going through. And so we began having connections of that sort, and it hit me like, this is important.
We've seen more athletes over the last, I say, 3 to 4 years really begin to talk about it. I remember Royce White had been drafted by the Houston Rockets, and at one point he wouldn't fly. And they were trying to figure out travel to games on buses and things along those lines. He ended up getting cut from the team, and he still blasted them, saying the NBA wasn't prepared for this. We look at Ben Simmons with the Brooklyn Nets, played with Philadelphia, basically took off a whole year saying he wasn't mentally prepared to play. Folks saying, oh man, he's soft, he's weak, things along those lines. And so more and more, just like in corporate America, just like in academia, more and more professional sports teams and leagues are having to deal with the reality of the mental well-being of their players.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Same thing. A lot of people, they wonder, well, we look at players, we look at athletes like as our entertainment, right? We want them to go ahead, perform at their highest potential, keep going every day, it doesn't matter, and you don't consider the fact that we're using them for our own mental health sakes, right? So we're looking
it's a mental break for us.
Exactly.
It's work for them.
Exactly. However, when we're having a bad day at work, we call off. But if someone misses a game, it's, wait, oh man, what happened?
Or drops a touchdown or misses a tackle, it's replayed on SportsCenter, on social media. It becomes a meme for years.
Yes.
In fact, I forgot the guy. I hate the fact that they won, but it was a Dallas Cowboy tight end who got literally, during the Super Bowl, hit him in the middle of the chest and dropped the touchdown. That was in the 70s. They still show that play.
And he's probably triggered still to this day, just because any mistake that they make, it's highlighted and it goes on. And in the era of social media, it's easy to pull up some old tweets, pull up an old clip. And so I know, like us, on an everyday, if something happened to us, no one knows about it. We can go in our room, shut the door, start over the next day. And with them, I had a chance to look at some of their DMs. Have you ever viewed the comment section? That's something that you don't consider. It's like, you don't realize that they're humans.
And now with fantasy football, now you got people who literally going on social media blaming an athlete for them losing a game. And I'm like, fool, your team is a fantasy team. You don't even own a real team.
Right.
Like they lose, it's a real loss.
Exactly.
You stop, but again, and some athletes have fired back and blasted people because of that.
They fire back and blast people, and then they're criticized. So they have to learn how to respond to others when in actuality, it's us, the consumers, who need to learn how to control sometimes and realize, hey, let's humanize this person.
You've done a lot of interviews with athletes who've been opening up about their mental health issues.
Yes. One of my favorite things to do. We've had several interviews. One of the most recent was with A.J. Brown. He opened up and he spoke about mental health, talked about his childhood, and the stories are pretty much a lot similar. A lot of them grow up the same. They have the same goals, dreams, passions, and they go through things just like we do. And so being able to have the athletes open up, talk about mental health, my goal is to have them talk about it a bit more, because we know that they are looked at. They have this platform where they can influence, and I know that if them sharing their story and me being able to connect with them in that way, maybe it could save someone else's life.
And again, folks, if you go to your YouTube page, I am Keshia Dennis, you see it. Pull up right now. This is one of the videos here of a conversation that you had. The thing again that is for so many people who really doesn't quite understand the amount of pressure. You mentioned anxiety. There are well-known singers who literally have anxiety attacks before they go on the stage. And for a number of these players, in fact, there was a gentleman, he just, I think it was a first-round draft pick, he just retired from the Dallas Mavericks because he said the anxiety was so overwhelming, he had to psych himself up just to play a game.
Yes.
And this is somebody who always the NBA is the pinnacle of being a basketball player.
Yes.
But he literally retired from the league because the anxiety was too much.
Yes, and you would think that the way we look at it, we go to work every single day. And so with them, let's say they're going to work every single day and it looks glamorous and they're getting paid all this amount of money, but it still doesn't mean that they, could feel anxious about something, or it may come second nature, but I still want to be perfect. I still want to perform. I don't want to mess up because I know how the world is so critical, especially when it comes to mental health. And so that is very well possible. And you mentioned earlier today about the trade. We think about trade and, we're like, well, this is, the game and these are the rules of the game. However, these people do have families. They do have to discuss relocation. That is a stressor. It can cause anxiety. They have children. And so some of those things do affect them. And it's just important that we treat them with the same amount of respect as we treat ourselves if our company is going through a reorg. Same situation.
The player I was talking about is Tyrell Terry. And in his statement, what he said was, this is what he said. This message is a very difficult one to share and an emotional one to write. Today, I decided to let go of the game that has formed a large part of my identity. And then he began to talk about it. He said that while I have achieved amazing accomplishments, created unforgettable memories, and made lifelong friends, I've also experienced the darkest times of my life, to the point where instead of building me up, it began to destroy me, where I began to despise and question the value of myself much more than those surrounding me could ever see or know. Intrusive thoughts, waking up nauseous and finding myself struggling to take normal breaths because of the rock that would sit on my chest that seemed to weigh more than I could carry. This is just a brief description of the anxiety this sport has caused me.
You will not believe how many times many people feel that exact same way. As a coach to some of these players, you have your trainers, you have your team physicians, you have the people that coach you on some of the physical things to help you be successful in your career. But the work that I do behind the scenes, it's, okay, we have a big game coming up. Let's work on mindfulness. Let's work on meditation. Let me schedule you some yoga. Let's do another exercise. Let's breathe. And we're having to do these things before games because it does help them prepare, and it is mental and physical. But that's expected. I've been there before. Have you ever had a panic attack before? Mm-hmm. One of the worst feelings ever. So just imagine you're feeling that way, and then you still have to go show up for other people. That's difficult. That's very difficult. So my sentiments.
All right, folks, we come back. We're going to have questions from our panel talking with Keisha about, again, we're talking mental health in sports. Super Bowl is taking place on Sunday. I'm telling you right now, there are some players you might think is all about exciting. This is the biggest game of their life, and they're trying to figure out, man, how am I going to cope playing in front of millions watching around the world? We'll be discussing that next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. If you watch on YouTube, hit the like button, y'all. We should easily be at 1,500 likes. Also, support us by joining our Brina Funk fan club. Check and money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide, Target, Books A Million. Download it from Audible. Order from your favorite black bookstore. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
The 54th NAACP Image Awards is airing live on February 25th, honoring outstanding performances in film, television, theater, music, and literature. But this year, Roland Martin Unfiltered is nominated for Outstanding News or Information Series or Special. To vote, head to NAACPImageAwards.net, scroll down to Outstanding News/Information Series, select the category. You have to click on hashtag Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Votes Matter Election Night Coverage. To submit your vote, you will need an email. Only one vote allowed per email. Voting ends on February 10th at 9 p.m. Vote today.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deion Cole, and you're watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Stay woke.
All right, folks. Keisha Dennis, founder and CEO of the Elephant in the Room Foundation, is our guest, talking about mental health in sports. Conversation you're not going to necessarily get on ESPN and some of the places talking about the Super Bowl this week. Time for our panel, and I'll start with Erica. Erica is the founder of the Reframe Brain. She was in a major car accident, Keisha. And she's talked about, she talked the other night about, in terms of, what'd you say, Erica, you had a suicide...
suicide safety plan.
Yeah, suicide safety plan. Because of the things that we're going through, the traumatic brain injury that you suffered. Go right ahead with your comment and question for Keisha.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to meet you. As Roland said, I am the founder and host of the Reframe Brain podcast, where we center brain health and unseen injuries. And very interesting, this week, there was a Black Men's Brain Health conference that was sponsored in part by the NFL. And so as a person who is now a cognition coach and a wellness expert, I wanted to find out from you, have any of the NFL players or athletes that you have been in conversation with, have they attended this brain health conference in Tempe, Arizona, yesterday and today by any chance?
To my knowledge, they have not, but I do know that I believe the conference that you're speaking of, I was supposed to attend that conference, and a couple of the players were invited. However, there was a conflict in some of their schedules with some of the, things that they already had planned for marketing and sorts. So for next year, we'll plan for sure for them to attend to get more educated.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
All right, Reese.
Nice to meet you, Keisha. I'm so glad you're here. Today's topic is more so centered around athletes. So I just wanted to get your take on the mental health of female athletes. There was a little bit more talk than normal with Brittany Griner and the harrowing ordeal being a political prisoner in Russia. So I'm just wondering if you've had any engagement with like women athletes specifically, and with even high school or college women athletes.
Hi, thank you so much. Yes, actually we have. We've spoken with several female athletes as well, collegiate and professional. And typically, it seems as though their mental health concerns are slightly a bit different. It's pretty much similar as some of the same concerns that us women have on a regular day. And there's it's a conference that was coming up, and it particularly talked about women and mental health when it came to females being pregnant and then going back to their sport. And so it's something that is growing in that topic. And so a lot of women were getting together to talk a little bit more on how to navigate motherhood, to navigate being a professional, and also not being looked at as, you know, someone who decided to go have a child and then deal with the mental concerns of coming back and being judged. But now I believe that's becoming more and more common, especially we've seen some of the greatest do it, Serena Williams. And so it's kind of setting the standard that, you know, women are able to bear children, get back to work, but also still keep their mental intact.
Oh, and on that point, I'll go to my iPad. The WNBA is actually investigating the Las Vegas Aces because one of their star players, Darica Hamby, said that she was being bullied by the team because she was pregnant, them trying to pressure her to come back as well. And so they've had to deal with that as a league. So that's definitely one of the issues they've been facing. Dr. Greg Carr.
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Sister Keisha. This is a very important conversation. I want to draw a contrast and answer a very specific question. My brother-in-law played in the NFL for a number of years. He was a defensive back, and so he wasn't at one of those positions where in a minute the whole thing could end. And I know when he and my sister and niece and nephew, they moved from Seattle to Pittsburgh and Atlanta, and they played in the Super Bowl. He shepherded his money, he husbanded his money, he qualifies for the pension, and he transitioned because he has his college degree from Tennessee State into the healthcare profession. So, you know, I got an inside look at the fact that it ain't the life that people think it is. I want to ask you in contrast about the brother who was all in the news last month, but we're not hearing much from now, and that's Damar Hamlin. We know he signed that initial contract. We know the Bills have kind of said they're going to honor that contract with money that wasn't necessarily guaranteed. What kind of things go through the mind of an athlete whose career is cut abruptly short and who doesn't qualify for the pension, who might not have thought that they have to think about their life later on, who maybe at age 24 and 20 or 25, it's all over. And as we know, the league really doesn't provide for those kind of athletes. How do you counsel them at a moment when everything changes on a dime and what they thought was going to happen won't happen at all?
Thank you so much. I think that's a wonderful question. Honestly, that is probably one of the most talked about things when it comes to players. It's pretty much it's either the transition, and like you said, with your brother and their family, it's a lot to deal with when it comes to transition out of league, especially if you maybe this was your first year deal, you didn't have a huge contract, but then your entire life from when you were about 3 years old playing Little League football up until you're, 24 years old, and season-ending injury, career-ending injury, and then now you have to learn how to pretty much reinvent yourself, pretty much learn how to navigate your identity. It's an identity crisis. Who am I? What else do I like to do? What am I interested in? Who really is going to be there for me now that I don't have the fame, now that I don't have the contract? And so it is pretty difficult. And even with Damar, I'm so excited, you know, to see that he's been recovering. However, that is something that you have to think about. It's something that I'm pretty sure that him, his family, and everyone, they will want to discuss mental health, you know, concerns when it comes to that, not just playing the game.
Well, here, if you go to my iPad, the NFLPA medical director says that he guarantees that Hamlin will be playing football again. There was a hockey player who literally had this exact same thing, who came back, went on to a Hall of Fame career. But one of the things that a Hamlin still is going to deal with, what happens when he steps back on the field? What happens when he has his first contact? Again, that's flashing through your minds. A lot of players have talked about that. And again, I think, I remember ESPN had a show called Playmakers. And it was so real that their league partner, the NFL, made them cancel the show.
Wow.
No, Playmakers was so real because it was dealing with steroids, it was dealing with drugs, it was dealing with mental stuff, it was dealing with prostitutes, it was dealing with all kinds of stuff. But the NFL, if y'all never saw the show, I remember the show, I watched it. If you don't know that show, Google it. The NFL put maximum pressure on ESPN because the show was too real. They were like, no, this ain't fiction. This thing is nonfiction. But what that show revealed, again, the pressures of these athletes. You think about any given Sunday, Lawrence Taylor played the position. That critical sack or that tackle gets a $500,000 bonus, and how these players will literally put their health on the line to hit that bonus. that impacts you mentally. And then mentally for those players, what happens with their families of having to deal with that person when they're going through all that stuff on the team.
Absolutely. I've spoken with some of the wives, girlfriends of some of these players, and it's the reality of it. And from my perspective, I get to see them call and talk about, oh, you know, they won the game. It was awesome. Everybody's cheering. Everybody's, you know, running down the street, riding. Like, wonderful things are going on. But she's like, you know, I'm the one who's up at 4 a.m. sitting next to the bathtub, doing cold water and putting ice in there because their bodies are just hurting. Mentally, they're drained. But they do it every day in and day out. And their mentality is that, you know, that's what they love to do. And they're going to put everything on the line for it. So eventually.
And that was, I believe, was it Lane Johnson? I think it was Lane Johnson with the Eagles. I think, yeah, here it is. Let me pull it up there. See, I told y'all, see what happened when you read so much, stuff just simply just sort of stays in your brain and you never know when the hell you're gonna need it. And so Lane Johnson, one of the best offensive linemen in history, he literally took a break. This is in 2021. He took a 2-week absence from the team to address mental health. And here's, like, they're in season. And folks are like, dude, we need you for the team. He's like, yo, if I ain't here, I can't be there for you.
Absolutely. Will we do that at our regular jobs? Will we take some sick days? Will we take a week off of vacation? Absolutely. It is a little bit different because people rely on them to show up for everyone else and for the team. And granted, those guys, they do want to do that day in and day out. And so if
while you're talking, y'all go to my iPad. This was the Twitter post that he posted, thanking folks for his absence. Go ahead.
If he really, you know, truly, he must have really been going through something to really take that time away because these guys are dedicated.
In season.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who was a starter.
Yeah.
Who literally has had a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
And there were several times where he actually was going to retire in the offseason but decided to come back. He said, I need 2 games away.
And I'm quite sure whatever that reason was, it was necessary.
Now, I know we might call Dennis Rodman crazy, but if anybody saw the Michael Jordan docuseries where The Last Dance, so Phil Jackson talked about how he they were going through the season and how he let Dennis Rodman go off to Vegas and go on a binge. And it was a trip because he said, I knew that if I didn't let Dennis go, there were going to be a lot of problems here. And he managed that thing where he said, I needed to let him go crazy to go do whatever the hell he needed to do to be able to come back and play.
Yeah. It's that balance. It's that balance the same way we do on the weekends. It's like, listen, I need to go get my mind right. So if my mind is good, the game will be well.
Yep.
It's a risk.
How can folks reach you if they want to get more information?
Definitely reach me. I am on Instagram. I am Keisha Dennis, as I am KESHIADENNIS. And there's more information about my foundation, The Elephant in the Room, Instagram at The Elephant in the Room Inc. and website www.theelephantintheroomInc.org.
All right, we appreciate it. Erica, Greg, Reese, we surely appreciate it. Thank you very much as well for joining us on the panel today. Folks, that is it. I'll see you tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, download our app. Of course, we got 1 million subscribers on YouTube. I would love to have 1 million downloads on our app. Why? Because we control it. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Don't forget, we're on Amazon News as well. When you click the Amazon Fire Stick, go to Amazon News. When you see CNN, MSNBC, our network is right there, our 24-hour streaming channel. And also, we got some more good news coming up on some new platforms we're launching our streaming channel on. I told y'all we are building a real black news and information network. That's what we are doing. And support us as well. Give to us, check our money order, Cash App, Venmo, Zelle, Venmo, all the platforms. You know how to reach us. And get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. I got to go. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla! Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now. Support this man, Black. Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair, take your seat at the Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.